Rabbi Zai, welcome to our another Wednesday night shiur. Our shiur tonight is sponsored by L'Atzlachat Moshe Chaim Ben Shmuel. May Hashem bless him with long years, long life. May he see his children's wedding. May he have a lot of parnasah, shalom bayit, bracha v'atzlacha. Our shiur is also a Rafat Shlemat Yosef Ben Yafa, Yosef Daniel Ben Yafa, I believe.
Yosef Daniel Ben Yafa.
Yosef Daniel Ben Yafa, and also for Daniel Ben Eliyahu. May Hashem send you guys a speedy recovery.
Amen. You too.
Tonight, we're going to speak about something very interesting. It was a person has to learn. He has to split his life. The Gemara says in Masechet Brachot into three. Shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, v'shlish b'gemara. You have to split your life. A third in Chumash, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, and its commentaries. A third in the Mishnah, which is just the basic laws, the oral laws. And a third in Gemara, the explanations to the oral law. So they said, how are you going to do that? What's the obvious problem? You don't know how long you're going to live for. If a person lives till 50, and obviously you shouldn't spend his life on, you should spend his life more on Mishnah or Halacha Psukat than Gemara or Chumash. You don't know how long you're going to live for. So the Chachamim say you should split your day. Your day should be split into three. It means if I only have an hour to learn a day, I shouldn't take one book and just focus on that. I should split that hour into three. 20 minutes I should learn Chumash, 20 minutes I should learn Halacha, and 20 minutes I should learn Gemara. Obviously, some people are more blessed, they have more time to learn Torah. So I like to learn Gemara, I like to learn at least 1 to 2 hours of Gemara a day, but I don't learn the same Masechet. I split it. First half I learn one Masechet, and second half I learn a second Masechet. First half I learn a Masechet that's more rigorous. Like for right now I'm doing Nidarim. Nidarim is considered one of the hardest Gemara. The reason is because they say, first of all, there's no Rashi on Nidarim. We don't know who the commentary on it is. Second thing, the Nidarim was not revised. Masechet Nidarim was never revised. So the language in it is very tough. The language. The second half, I like doing easier Masechet. The Masechet I'm doing now is Tamid. Masechet Tamid basically explains how they used to work in the Beit HaMikdash. And I got to this one point inside the Gemara. Last night it was, mamash. I was planning on doing with you guys tonight something totally different. When I got to this Gemara over here, I said, if I don't share it with you guys, it's just pashut, you guys are missing out. Pashut. Chaval. And it's such a, on this small Gemara over here, this small portion of this Gemara, and Masechet Tamid, the Chachamim say, because of this small portion, it's only three, the whole Gemara, this whole Masechet is 3 pages. It's 3 pages. Rav Chaim Kanievsky says, because of this small piece of Gemara I'm going to teach you guys tonight, you're allowed to make a Siyum Masechet.
Wow. On 3 pages?
And these 3 pages. Maybe we should all learn it together in the shul as a group.
Yeah, we should.
It's also a good idea. A person who needs to fast on Erev Pesach, he hasn't finished anything. This is one thing you can do to finish, and this Rav Chaim Kanievsky says this. The Gemara says a very interesting story. In Judaism, we have heroes and we have villains. The Gemara says that when Mashiach is going to come, he's going to take the torch, the light, the kingship from Esav. But the Gemara says, interestingly, he doesn't take it from Rome. Rome is truly the successor of Greece. Greece is known as Yavan, Galut Yavan. Why is Yavan so important? Because the last holiday we have in the Jewish calendar is what? Chanukah. Chanukah celebrates the defeat of Greece by the Jewish people, by the Hashmonaim, the Kohanim. And the king who put Greece on the map was none other than Alexander the Great. Alexander the Macedonian. In the Gemara's language, he's called Alexander Mogdon. Yeah, Alexander Mogdon. But what's interesting, he might be the most destructive person for the Jewish people spiritually, but yet for some reason his name happens to be a very famous Jewish name. How many Alexes do you know? How many Alexanders do you know? We all know the famous story how Alexander came to Jerusalem and he saw Shimon HaTzadik and he bowed down in front of him and he walked with him. And from that day on, they said all the Kohanim that year, what are they going to be their names? Alexander. Okay, we know that story. I don't want to go into that story. The Gemara says that Alexander had a dialogue with a couple of Chachamim. Unbelievable. He had a dialogue. He went to a Beit Midrash and he had a dialogue. He asked 10 questions. And tonight, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to say what were those 10 questions that he asked. You know this Gemara? And what are the answers that he got in return? It's a very famous Gemara. The reason is, if anybody knows current events, I always have to stay up to date because I teach kids. I have to know all the shtuyot that's going on. So there is a very famous Jewish actress, Israeli actress, that she plays an Amazonian princess.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, right? I'm not gonna mention her name.
She's a lefty.
Yeah. Whatever. What does it matter? She's Jewish. And the person she plays is basically the movie is based on a comic book that it's based on a Greek mythology that there was a city where only women live. There's no men over there. Only women. How they reproduced, how this and that. I don't know. Hashem Yodea. But there was a city of women, and there was a hero over there, and this Israeli actress plays her. Do you know that this story is not a myth? The source of it is in our Gemara. The Gemara says, at the end of the story over here, my point tonight is to tell you 10 questions. I don't want to get into the whole story, what happens afterwards. I'm going to tell you right now as a prelude. After Alexander is defeated by the Jewish elders, he asked them for advice how to pass a mountain range. It's called the Mountains of Darkness. The Ramban explains, what does that mean, the Mountains of Darkness? Obviously, Africa is really close to the equator. Obviously, the sun hits over there. The Ramban, Nachmanides, explains that in these mountains, the darkness that was in Mitzrayim, it's a thick black darkness, exists, and no light could penetrate it. In these two mountains, Azai and Azael live, two angels that told Hashem that we could do better than man, and then they fell to the hands of the human women. And over there, Bil'am, which in two parashas we're going to learn about him, the Zohar says in Parashat Balak that Bil'am went to this Harei HaChoshech to learn the arts of the black magic from these two angels that live over there. And this Gemara, we're going to learn that this is where Alexander the Great, Alexander Macedonian, Alexander Mogdon, he wanted to pass this black because nobody ever did.
Is it around Israel? Is it close to Israel?
It's in Africa. It's in Africa. And because he didn't know how to pass it, he came to these Jewish elders to ask them how to do it. So they told him that you gotta take Libyan donkeys, white Libyan donkeys. You have to tie on them a certain string and let them pass. They have a special power that they can see through this black darkness. They're able to go, and you follow until you get to the other side. And Alexander the Great, anybody who knows a little history, I know I'm not here to tell you history. Alexander the Great, he was not just a conqueror. He wanted to be known as the greatest sportsman. He wanted to be known as the greatest theologist. He wanted to be known as the greatest adventurer. He wanted to conquer the world, not only in the sense of power. He wanted to be known as the greatest form. He thought of himself as a god. He thought of himself as a god.
It's like him as a Jew.
And he was, by the way, history says, he was a total, complete drunk. He loved to drink. In fact, in 1 year, history says that he killed over a third of his generals. Over a third of his generals while he was drunk. He thought of himself as a god. He gets he listens to these Jewish rabbis, these Jewish elders, and he gets to the other side of the mountain. And what does he find on the other side of the mountain? An African tribe. So it's not like the movies where they're all... Yeah. He finds an African tribe of just women. No men.
In that mountain.
And across that mountain. And he prepares all of his entourage to make war with them. This is where the whole myth of the Amazons come from. He finds a tribe like that. How they reproduce, the Gemara doesn't say. There is a theory that there was a couple of men over there, but it was like 99% women. That means the women were men and the men were women over there. So he finds this African tribe of only women and he wants to fight with them. He wants to go to war with them. Alexander. The Gemara says, Ma, you can read the story. I'll even give you the page yourself. Read it for yourself. And this African tribe, the leader, the queen, says to him, what's the point of you going to war with us? If you're going to win, they're going to say men beat women. If we're going to win on the other hand, they're going to say the great conqueror of the world was killed by a woman. So Alexander said, you know what, you guys are right. I'm stupid to have come all the way over here. So he said to them, I'm a little hungry, could you give me something to eat? So they put in front of him a bread made out of gold. So they said, I asked you for food. He says, what? You crossed the mountain just to get food? This is why you came over here? Alexander the Great basically got out of there with humiliation. And he went all the way back. When he went all the way back, he said, I am Alexander, the Macedonian, that passed through the mountains of darkness as a stupid man. And I came back and I learned chokhmah, wisdom, from this African tribe. On the way back, he had sardines. We eat in Shabbat in the mornings, it's a mitzvah actually, we learned it not long ago. To eat small fish on Shabbat. Yeah. So he takes these small fish, and there was a river over there, the Gemara says. He takes the fish and they slip out of his hands and they hit the river. The river was one of the rivers that come out of Gan Eden. So because it comes out of the Gan Eden, it had the properties of Etz HaChaim, the tree of life, and the fish come back to life. So he said this river must be from Gan Eden, from the Etz HaChaim. So he walks all the way to Gan Eden and he says, let me in. Let me in, I want to come in, I'm the conqueror of the world. And over there, there's La Tacher V'Taveh, you can't go inside.
UID.
So they said, we can't let you in because you're R.Shalom. But they said to him, we'll give you a gift. Ask what you want. I want to take something of wisdom with me. I want something that I will learn. So they gave him an eye. An eye.
Whose eye?
Somebody that was in Gan Eden. He takes the eye. He goes back to Greece, and anything he would put on a scale, the eye would outweigh it. So he goes to the Jews living in Greece and he says to them, give me your rabbi. He says to them, you guys believe in Gan Eden, Gehenom. What can I do? What is this eye? What does it mean? How can it outweigh everything that I put? Gold, silver, anything, all the metals. So he said, take a little dirt and put it on the eye. He puts it on the eye and suddenly the eye weighs the way it's supposed to weigh. A couple of ounces. So he said, what does that mean? He said, Alexander, you think you're so smart. You think you're a conqueror. You can't even make sense of a small riddle they gave you. An eye is the one thing in a human being's body, that it can never be satisfied. No matter what you'll put on the scale, it'll always outweigh everything. Because you always want more and more and more and more and more. But once you close your eyes, you put some sand, you shut the eye, then everything goes back to the way it's supposed to be. They tell them. This is the stories of the Gemara, and the reason why the Gemara brings down all these stories about this, because he's a very important character. Everything that we live in our society, the clothing, the way of life, the way we treat people, the way the things keep on, more inventions, democracy, the republic, all these kind of things, American society, Rome, everything was started by Alexander the Great. He started everything. He was the source of all of what we live in right now is basically in Hellenistic society. That's why in some ways we never defeated. The whole story of Hanukkah never ended. It never ended because we're still living in Alexander's shadow. Alexander wasn't a regular person. His father, the king of Macedonia, when he was a young boy, he saw the boy was very smart, so he hired him for him to be a teacher, one of the greatest philosophers. The Rambam says he was one level away from prophecy. Rambam took a lot of heat for saying that. His books were burnt, because he said something very... Because the guy he's about to say, the guy that I'm about to say, that he quoted, was one of the biggest kofrim in Hashem. His name was Aristotle. In Judaism, we call him Aristo. Aristotle, the Rambam says, was such a smart guy. He had such hitbonenut in the world, in the teva, that he was one level away from prophecy. The Rambam says this. And he was the teacher, he was the role model of Alexander. Everything that Alexander knew about the world came from Aristotle. So therefore Alexander thought that he was a very smart man. And Hashem gave him a lot of kochot. He conquered Europe, he conquered most of Asia, a lot of parts of Africa, Egypt. And he slaughtered and he killed. The first army, he was the first king to have a special platoon in his army of only... How you say, I don't want to say it on the thing, men with men, everything, basically everything went for this guy. And he loved ego. He was a very big narcissist. Nobody knows how he dies. Nobody knows how he dies. We know he died in Iraq. Everyone thinks, the science, historians think that he died because of a STD. He was not a person that was shy of himself. And he used to do a lot of stuff that weren't kosher. Especially with that platoon that he was a general of. And they say he died and he was sick. They poisoned him because he used to kill people right and left. He was basically like a dictator. I mean, it was democracy just on the outer surface. He used to kill everybody right and left. And they poisoned him and he died. He died at the age of 34. 33, 34. I mean, all of his life, all of his conquest was all in a couple of years. Could you imagine that? He conquered the whole world in a couple of years. One of the last places that he conquered was Israel, Eretz Israel. He gets to Eretz Israel, and he was a very smart man. Israel is divided into two, the north and the south. We have a rule in Judaism, we have the 10 sefirot, right? The 10 spheres, the 10 energies that Hashem reveals himself with. There is a rule in Judaism. Anything that comes from the north is cold, is evil. In fact, the Gemara says everything. Gehenom is in the north, the Gemara says. But what's also in the north? Kesef v'zahav. The money. One treasure, go to the north.
Evil.
Yeah. Because zahav is gvura. Tzafon is gvura. If you want to find chokhmah, you want to find Gan Eden, you want to find to overcome your desires, the power to overcome the neshama over the goof, where do you go? To the south. Alexander knew the secret. It's very funny that most rabbis in Israel at that time, where did they live?
North.
In the north. Where's Jerusalem? It's considered the north. But there was a group of rabbis, hermits, you might call them, monks. I don't like to call them that word. They were rabbis, zkenim. They weren't called chachamim. They were called zkenim. Elders. They were above chokhmah. They were above it. They were bidarom. They were in the place of chokhmah. And he came to them and he asked them 10 questions. 10 highly theological questions. All theory. You might hear them and you might, what is this guy asking? They're so stupid. Do you call this guy the student of Aristotle? He asked the dumbest questions. I'm going to read them to you.
What about the rock?
No, nothing to do with rocks.
Gibor, right?
No, that's in the middle. Shlosha devarim sha'al Alexandros Mogdon et Ziknei HaNegev. 10 things Alexander asked the elders of the south, the Jewish elders of the south. 3 things he asked to 10 things he asked to the elders of the south. I said Shlosha is Asara. Oh, made a mistake. Amar lahen, he said to them, Mina shamayim la'aretz. Rachok, what's farther for a human being? From heaven to the earth? That means when I look up to the heavens, what's the farther distance from heaven to earth? O mizrach le'ma'arav, or if I see from the east, the farthest I can see to the east, to the west. You have to understand, back then they believed that the world was flat. So you have two, obviously if they knew the world was round, the question wouldn't even make sense. So now you can ask me a crazy question, and you call these guys rabbis that knew Torah and everything. How could they even answer his question? You should have told them the world is round. There is no east to west. So the Maharal says, if you think that Alexander was stupid enough to ask such a stupid question, you don't even know how to learn Gemara. His question is totally on a different level. I'm going to explain to you in a second. When I'm going to explain to you what his question is, you're going to think that this Gemara is totally mystical, the mystical parts of the Torah. So he said, what's farther from the heaven to the earth? That means from the north to the south, or mizrach lemar, or from the east to the west. Amrullah, what did they answer him? You're gonna be dumbfounded. Not only did they answer him, they answered him the question that you would think that it doesn't make sense at all. They told him, mimizrach lema'ara, from east to west is farther, from north to south. That means the two sides of the earth is farther than when you look up to heaven, from the earth to the atmosphere. And they not only that, they're giving Alexander a explanation. Teda, they told him, you should know. I mean, this is Aristotle's, even the Jewish people, they respected him. The Rambam said he was one level away from Nebuah. Obviously, there was some kind of respect. The Rambam only wrote the Guide to the Perplexed because Jewish people were learning Plato, Aristotle in his day. The Ramban says that he wrote this book for people who learned theology. He didn't write this book for regular Jews who have emunah. Okay? So Jewish people were very into theology theory. In fact, in the time of the Rashba, one of the great halachic pillars, there was a ban in learning theology. He said, until your age of 25, you're not allowed to learn it. Because your mind hasn't cooked yet, it hasn't ripened yet to learn it. So they answer him, Teda, you should know, giving him a proof. Sharei chama b'mizrach, when you look to the east, where the sun rises where? In the east. Hakol mistaklim, could you see the sun? If you look at the sun, when it rises, you can't see it?
Well, you
could see it very well. Does it hurt your eyes when you see it?
A little bit.
A little bit. And then he says, when the sun sets in the west, for sure, when the sun sets, when you look at the sun, does it hurt your eyes? No. That's for sure. You have to agree with the Ziknei Negem on this one, right? Look how they're using, look at the logic. So he says, when the sun is all the way to the west, does it hurt?
No.
Could you look at it? Yes. But in the daytime, when the 12 o'clock afternoon, when the sun is right ahead of you, when the sun is right above you, hitting you smack in the middle, could you look at the sun? No. So what does that mean? That the sun is closer to you. So that means what's closer, from east to west or from north to south? From north to south is closer, east to west is farther. That's what they answered Alexander, and Alexander accepted the answer. The Chachamim cholkim, but the Chachamim in the north, they disagree with the rabbis of the south. They say you're wrong. Chachamim omrim ze vazeh ke'echad shavim. They're both equal. From the north to the south, and from up and down, it's the same distance. It's the same distance. Why they say that? The Gemara says. The pasuk says in the Gemara, in the Chumash in Tehillim, Ki gvoa ma'a shamayim ala haaretz ki rechok mizrach mima'arav. V'chad minay. When the pasuk says that the earth and the heavens is far away from each other, they put them both in different psukim. If one was farther than the other, the Gemara argues they should have been coupled together in one pasuk to teach you that one is bigger than the other. The fact that each one gets its respective verse means what? They both have the same exact distance from one another. So what do we have over here? First question, Alexander asks, what's farther? The heaven to earth? Or from the east of the earth, of the Harai, to the west? Now, we're going to go to the next question. We're going to explain this question at the end. This is my favorite question. The first is always the best. Why is Alexander asking such a question? You have a goy here who lives any way he wants, who made himself into a god, who believed in all the Greek gods, athletic man with hundreds of wives. You know how many countries he named Alexandria after himself? Over 20 countries. Over 20 cities. It was called Alexandria after him. He had wealth. What does he care how far you are from the heaven? Or how far the east is to the west? It's a good question, but hold on to that question. Let's get to the second question. So the Gemara says,
how far is the sun?
how far is this heaven?
Sun.
How far is the heaven? What's in the heaven? What's the greatest proof? The biggest bowl in there is the sun, right? Well, that's why the Chachamim use that as a proof, right? Because it's over there. The Gemara continues. What was created first? Heaven or earth was created first? What do you guys think? Heaven was created first. What's the proof? You think earth was created first? And what does it say? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz.
You need to have both at the same time. They work simultaneously.
They work simultaneously. I agree with you. But what was created first?
I just told you, they're both
You have
created.
twins in the belly, right? Could they both come out at the same time?
No, but they developed. They created the same time.
No.
Once they meet.
What's the greatest proof? Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov was created first, so what did he come out? Second. Esav was created second, but that's why he came out first. No two things are created simultaneously. One always has to come before the other one. And the Chachamim, the Ziknei Negev, answer him, no, heaven was created first. And Alexander accepts the answer. What does he say? You guys are correct. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim. Heaven is first, then ve'et haaretz. Okay. Then he asked them. Then the Gemara says, what was created first? Darkness or light?
So that's easy. Darkness.
So he's saying darkness. So using the same thing. What does it say? God created darkness. Then it says what? Vayehi or. And then there was light. So what do you mean? What was created first?
Darkness.
The darkness was created
The
first.
absence of light was always there. It just
When God created on the first day, darkness and light, is that the sun and the moon?
no.
The sun and the moon is the sun and the moon.
The luminary.
The luminaries. Light and darkness are different creations. What was created on the first day of the world was not the sun and the moon.
But the darkness is the lack of light.
So that's what was created on the fourth day. The moon, night, is the lack of what?
Light.
Light, with the lack of the sun. You understand? But what was created on the first day was not that. The Torah says specifically, God created darkness. This idea, this creation of darkness, Hashem created it. Now the Chachamim, the Ziknei Negev, when they asked him that, you know what they told him? We don't know. Yeah, the Ziknei Negev, the elders of the south. They said, we don't know the answer to that. So the Gemara asked if they knew, what was the proof they had for the second answer? The Torah. So why didn't they just answer from the Torah again?
He's not going to listen to the Torah answer.
He listened for the first two.
That was different. It's something logical. This is illogical for them.
Why is it illogical?
Let's
Let's look at that. Let's look at it. When they asked the first two questions, what's farther and what was created first, heaven or earth? Then they asked what's created, light and darkness, right? What was created first, light or darkness? First of all these questions are very illogical. What does that have to do with anything? Why is the Gemara even bringing this down? To bring just some stories? The Gemara doesn't tell me stories. The Gemara tells us life lessons. This is life lessons. These three questions. Alexander, you have to understand, was an atheist. He didn't believe in Hashem. He believed in Zeus, Aphrodite. He believed in Ares, the god of war. He believed he was a god. He didn't believe that something that could create light and darkness. In fact, the Ramban, Nachmanides, in his beginning of his Pirush on the Torah, says that the Greeks believed that the world was created from a certain matter called Yuli. From this Yuli, it's kind of like the antimatter. It's like stem cells.
Mm-hmm.
You could create anything. God created this thing called Yuli. Nachmanides brings this on the Ramban. Open any Ramban. In the English ones, they erase it from the book.
Why?
Because it's Kabbalistic. They don't want you to learn the Kabbalistic parts. You understand? So God created this chomer called a Yuli. From this Yuli, He created everything. It's like stem cells. You can make any organ out of it. Okay? That's what Alexander believed in. He didn't believe that God created the Yuli. He believed that the Yuli was already there. So what was that guy who just died? Who came with the Big Bang? Stephen Hawking. Yeah, he's dead. This Stephen Hawking, his Big Bang theory is not really his theory. He just worked on Aristotle's theory. This Yuli, this antimatter, was always there according to Aristotle. Nobody created it. It just decided one day to blow up into what we know today is the galaxies and the Earth. So I'm going to analyze the first question right now. What was Alexander meaning when he asked the Ziknei Negev? the elders of the South, what's farther? North, south, heaven, earth, what's the greater distance? And then what did they answer him? East and west is farther than the north and they gave him a hint, and gave him a proof. Alexander didn't care about what's farther. He didn't care about that. His teacher, Aristotle, taught him one thing. This is one of the biggest people who go off the derech today because they learn theology. This is what gets them off the derech. That's why it's a very dangerous Gemara to learn, if you learn it. He was basically saying Aristotle believed there is no such kind of thing as divine providence. The world as a whole is not governed by God. What does that mean? Should the fact that I took the Q46 today at 9:05 and I missed the 9:04, God didn't decide that. That was coincidence. The fact that a leaf falls off the tree, that's a coincidence. It just happens because that's nature. Okay? The fact that I feel attracted to somebody and the second person I don't, that's because of me as a person. God is not working the shidduchim over here. But Aristotle did believe that the world as a whole, there is something that's governing it. As a whole. That means why one nation defeats another. Why a group of people become senators or in charge over another. There is some divine providence over there. Something. He did believe there is some kind of power that rules over a group of people. But it doesn't rule over your day-to-day life. That means what you decide in your day-to-day life, that's your rights. The fact that I missed the bus is because I'm lazy and I just missed it. Okay? So that's a very, very, first of all, it makes sense. Am I right or wrong? Now, when Aristotle went to the Jewish people, he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew these are the smartest guys. And he specifically didn't go to the North rabbis. He said, those guys are too with the people, you know? They messed them up, you know? The people messed them up. Where did he go to? He went to the rabbis of the South. In the South, it's a desert. There's no riches over there. Everything is dry. Everything is dark. You know, there's no beauty over there. Nothing blossoms over there. You know? It's like people you ever go to Florida? Everybody there is so laid back. They're so chilled.
Too hot to do anything.
It's too hot to do anything. You understand? It's too hot to over here in the city. You go to the north. What is everybody doing? Running back and forth, and there's this and that. So if you want to find chokhmah, where do you go to?
To the north.
South.
To the south. Why? Because people who want to learn Torah in the south, they have time to do it because the materialistic world doesn't grab onto them. Especially these guys were living in the desert, in the Negev desert. So he told them, my rabbi, you have a rabbi. I have a rabbi too. His name is Aristotle. He told me there's no such kind of thing as free will. He told me there's no such thing, I'm sorry, as hashgacha pratit. Hashgacha pratit, divine providence, is a flaw in the human way of thinking. You Jewish people, you don't know what you're doing. You're making up stuff. As a nation, you guys, you're an amazing nation, but as a nation, but your private life, you're wasting your life. You're learning, you're doing this, that, you're wasting it. Live life. Enjoy kaifui. Exactly. Go out, live life. Every day is a new day. And what was his proof? This was hinted in his question. North and south, you could look at the sun, right? The sun over here is a hint to Hashem. When I see human beings as a whole, like I look at the United States of America, or I look at a shul, or I look at a nation, it's easier for me to see how Hashem runs the world. Am I right or wrong? If I look at history as a whole, is it easier to see Hashem over there pulling the strings? If I look at my life as a whole, is it easier to see Hashem? Not really. You have to look for Him, right? The fact that I missed the bus in the morning, how am I supposed to see Hashem in that?
Where's Hashem?
Where's Hashem? The fact that somebody hit my car and I have to waste half a day in the masach, to fix my car.
Where's Hashem?
Where's Hashem over there? But when I look at it in the big run, that I got hit by a car and that day was 9/11, and if I would have been in the tower at that time,
There's Hashem.
there's Hashem already. But do I see that? I don't see it.
On a daily basis, no.
On a daily basis, you can't see that. You only see it in retrospect. And you usually see it only when it's connected to what? Humanity as a whole. I don't see Hashem in my everyday life. So Alexander said, you have to agree with me, guys. North and south make sense. East and west make sense. North and south. What's north and south?
Hashem.
It's Hashem. Hashem is on top of you. It doesn't make sense. In your daily life, why did the leaf fall off the tree? The Baal Shem Tov says a story. One time, a king built a castle. He was building the castle. Suddenly, in the middle, he was building the castle. And what does he say? The castle is missing something. It's missing a balcony. It's missing a balcony. He builds the balcony. He's so happy with the castle. 20 years later, a tzaddik passes by and it's raining and he needs some shade. Where does he go to hide? Under the balcony. It finishes, he leaves the premises, and the whole castle crumbles.
It served its
Does
purpose.
the tzaddik know that the balcony, does the king realize the only reason he created that balcony was for one reason only? So that tzaddik should find shade over there. Does the tzaddik know it? Does the king know it?
Nope.
No. But is it true that Hashem did the whole thing just for him? Yes. Hashem went all the way like that just to get you to some certain place. Now what you do when you get to that point is that's your free will. Do I do the mitzvah or I do the avera? Alexander didn't believe in that. He believed from the heaven to the earth is much farther. That's much farther. Why? It's not zelo ve'higayon. Why did he believe in it? Because he was an atheist. Why was he an atheist? Alexander would say, Hashem helped me defeat all those countries.
Ego.
He wouldn't call it Alexandria anymore. He would call it the city of God. Why did he call it Alexandria? He said, Kochi ve'otzem yadi asa li et kol ha'chayil hazeh. But the Chachamim, they weren't afraid. They spit in his face. They said, no way. You know what's farther from the logic? To see Hashem from the east to the west. And then he asked them, what was created first, heaven or earth? What did the Greeks believe in? Sports, in women, democracy. They believe in the materialistic world. Alexander was basically saying, what's created first? What's the main issue in my life? What should I make the main issue? The physical world, the earth? What was created first? The earth? I think it's the earth, Alexander said. Why? The whole point of this world is the Yabasha, it's the earth. Chachamim said, no. You know why we live in this world? For the Shamayim. Shamayim was created first. You got to put Shamayim before the Aretz. I know a guy. He's he's a doctor, and he has a lot of money, and he cannot find a shidduch. He can't find a shidduch. I remember speaking to him once, and I asked him, "Why don't you get married?" He said, "When I had the chance, when I had nothing." I said no. I said when I'm gonna be a something, you know what's gonna come my way? He said now nothing is coming my way. That's the question Alexander asked the Ziknei HaNegev. What came first, the heaven or the earth? What's farther, the heavens or north to south? You have to connect to what's real, the Ziknei HaNegev told them. Then you know what he asked them? What was created first, light or darkness? Alexander didn't believe that darkness is in existence within itself. You know what that means? He wasn't really talking about light and darkness. He asked them, is there such a thing as a Yetzer Hara? Darkness is another name for Yetzer Hara, or is another name for what? Yetzer Hatov. When I look at my life, and I'm faced with a desire, with a ta'ava, Alexander said. I'm faced with the option I could steal right now. And I see this all the time as a teacher in school for kids. Sometimes the kids don't think that anybody's watching. And they're faced with a dilemma. There's a phone right then and there. There's a phone, there's money right there. A year ago when I was teaching geometry, I had a crazy case in my class. One kid had $300 in his pocket. He was a big kid, very big. So he didn't realize that he was stretched over doing his math work, And one kid was sitting behind him, and he sees three $100 bills, and he couldn't resist. And he just took it, put it in his pocket. There were singles over there too. He made sure to leave the singles. Why? To say, you probably left the $100 bills at home. I didn't take it. If I would have stolen, I would have stole everything. Smart kid.
Businessman.
At the end, we caught him.
Wow.
We caught him. That's a story within itself. We opened up the Chumash and it said his name. No, I'm kidding.
On your pocket.
No, it wasn't in his pocket. It was smart. He put it in his sock.
Still found it.
Like this, in his sock, like this. But the way we found him was, okay, it's not important. And in Alexander's mind, what that kid did, was it an Avera? It was an Avera.
He had his own free
You know why? Because
God's not in control.
darkness is not a creation. It just means that light isn't there, according to him. According to Aristotle, darkness just means light isn't there. So the guy wasn't looking. He takes it with his body. That's his problem, not mine. He wasn't looking. According to us, those kind of thing, darkness was created first. The world was created for the Yetzer Hara, to fight the Yetzer Hara. The world was created that there should be a dialogue between yourself. You know, a person has a very big Yetzer Hara inside of him. Very big. He's an angel, you know that. If we already mentioned Likutei Moharan in the beginning before we started the recording, I'm going to tell you something from Likutei Moharan. Likutei Moharan says, I think it's Tikkun Ayin. He says, don't think that your Yetzer Hara is some,
Smart tooth.
exactly, on the street. Some homeless guy who's telling you, come on, let's do this, let's do that. Give me some drugs. No. Your Yetzer Hara is a Malach Kadosh. You know what? He's a holy angel. Your Yetzer Hara, you know, Rav Nachman says, before you do an Avera, how do you know you're about to do an Avera? He says, I'll give you a sign. When your heart starts to beat very, very fast, guess what? You're about to do an Avera. Why? Because your Yetzer Hara lives in your blood. And he's alive inside your blood. When he feels that you're about to do Avera, he gets excited. So he makes your blood run really fast and your heart starts to beat real quick. So Rav Nachman says that should be your
Sign.
That's your sign. That's the yellow. Slow down, back up. Don't pass the red light. And almost all the time after you do the Avera, the Yetzer Hara gets his dose, and suddenly, whoo, and then the regret kicks in. That's unless you did it many times.
True.
That's the Malach HaKadosh. That's the darkness God created in the first day. That's the darkness he says that God created darkness before the light. In Alexander's mind, doesn't make sense. Why? What's a democracy? Democracy means everybody has a free chance. There's no such thing as a king. We elect the king. We say who's going to be the leader. If the president does something wrong, we could kick him out. There's no such thing as a king in democracy. Of course, behind the doors in those secret societies, they do all the shtiyot in the world. It's a double standard. But Alexander, now how come I didn't answer the question? Because you know the next question would have been, if you're telling me that there is a Yetzer Hara, and spirituality has to govern materialism, if you're telling me that, tell me the ultimate question. What's beyond the universe? The Gemara in Masechet Chagigah says that's a question that you're not allowed to answer. You're not allowed to even think of that question. What's beyond the black hole? What's beyond space? You cannot allowed to ask yourself that question. Because if you're going to think about it, it might bring you to not believe in God anymore. Because you know what the next question is? What did God do before He created the world?
Where did he come from?
Where did He come from? And that's what they knew. The Gemara says that was His next question. So you know, the Ziknei Negev were so smart, you know what they said to themselves? We know where he's heading.
Yeah.
We're not going to answer the light and darkness question. We're going to leave him with a question mark. And he was happy to be left like a why. In his mind, he won the argument. They didn't know the answer. That means I'm right. There's no Yetzer Hara. I can do whatever I want. What was the fourth question they asked? They asked him, who is the smart man? Ezu Chacham. Who's the smart man? Perkei. What does Perkei Avot say? Who's the smart? They answer something differently over here. What's a smart man?
Doesn't talk learn from others.
That learns from. Somebody learned Perkei Avot this year. Who's a smart man? A person who learns from others. You know what they answered him? Who's the smart man who sees the future? Why didn't they answer him the Pirkei Avot? Why didn't they answer him that? And who was Alexander surrounded by? Thieves, molesters, people, killers, people from the underground. You're telling me to learn from others? That's a smart man? Bechavod, I'm going to learn from others. I'm going to keep on doing my Hellenistic way of life. So you know what they did? We're very smart. They told him just the opposite. Who's a smart man? One who could count his steps in the future. What were they telling him? You think you're very smart. What did he hope they were going to answer him? He hoped they were going to answer him that you're the smartest. Who's smart? Alexander, the king. You're the smartest. You're the emperor of the world. But to be a Jew, you have to understand. There are two things in Judaism. One is a nevela, and one is a trefa. Nevela is what? Sheker. Lies. You know what trefa is? Chanufa. Complimenting a person just to get on his good side. That's called chanufa. One is a nevela, one is a trefa. We're going to see at the end of the questions, Alexander said, because you defeated me in most of the questions, I'm going to kill all of you. They should have saved themselves, am I right or wrong? But they didn't do any chanufa. He could be the king of the world. If you know somebody is doing something wrong, there's a way to say it. But you're not allowed to be machnifoto. You're not allowed to compliment him for no reason. You're not allowed to do how they say Mukharin kundar vozi. You know what that word means? I'm not going to translate it.
You get the point.
So they told him, learn from history. See the future. Count your steps. Don't think you're going to be a conqueror of the world forever. You're going to get to the end one day, and he did. He didn't see the future, and he died from a very horrible death. Fifth question. Ezu Gibor. Who's considered a strong man? What did he think they would say? Conqueror of the world. You're the strongest. What did they say? Hakovesh et Yitzro. One who defeats his Yetzirah. One who defeats his desires. That's a Gibor. That's Pirkei Avot already. Alexander didn't know what it means to be Kovesh et Yitzro. You know, I was walking over here and I thought of a bomb question. There, you know the famous story. We have over here a story of a Greek goy, fighting with Jews. There's a similar story in the Gemara. Over there, the goy is subservient. Who? Antoninus, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, and who? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. We know the story. He was taken by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's mother. She gave him a couple of drops of Jewish milk. Chalav Yisrael. She gave him a couple, not Chalav Yishmael. She gave him a couple of drops of Chalav Yisrael, and the boy grew up. He liked the Torah, mitzvot. Could you imagine a couple of drops of Chalav Yisrael? What should we say? What are we going to answer?
It's not regular. It's a mother of tzaddik.
I'm just trying to say, don't drink Chalav Akum. Don't drink milk that wasn't watched by a goy. Don't drink Chalav Stam. So this Marcus grew up, and one day he asked Rebbe, do I have Olam Haba? So Rebbe said, how are you going to have Olam Haba? You don't have a Brit Milah. So he gives himself a Brit Milah. Himself. That means Avraham Avinu was 99 when he got his Brit. Am I right or wrong? The Gemara says, who's the first? How come Sandak is a very special thing in the world? Everybody wants to be Sandak. Maran doesn't even mention Sandak. It's a Ramah. Who says that? It's a Zohar. But in the Shulchan Aruch. So he said, who's the first person who gave himself a Brit? Avraham. Lachniso bivrito shel Avraham Avinu. But who was the first Sandak in the world? Hashem. Because when Hashem said Avraham Avinu's hands were shaky, he's about to cut off his. He's 99 years old. So Hashem held him with his hands. He was his sandak. He held him steady. So when you're a sandak, you're in some ways you're connecting to Hashem. And Hashem is Mekora Parnasa. Am I right or wrong? So Antoninus was in one way above Rebbe, right? Above Avraham. He gave himself a brit. But the funniest thing in the world, if you learn the end of the Gemara over there, when Antoninus dies, you know what the Rebbe says? Something very cruel. Nitparda chavila. I don't wish to see him in the next world. Thank God, good riddance. And he did a lot of good things for the Jewish people. How come he said that? He said, I don't have anything more to do with him. Finished. So no matter what you do, if you don't do it correctly according to halacha, you still remain a goy. Just because a goy gets a brit milah in a hospital doesn't make him a Jew. Antoninus might have given himself a brit. Did he keep Torah and mitzvot? Did he go through our tests in our life for 70, 80, 90 years? He was the emperor of the Roman Empire. He killed whenever he wanted. He did whatever he wanted. He's not a Jew. He gave himself 100 breeds. What is this? Krit Machism? You know how Krit Machism is. If Osama bin Laden, a second before he was shot by that Navy SEAL, but it said, I accept JC, according to the New Testament, guess what? Osama bin Laden has a free pass to heaven. He's probably sitting next to JC wherever they are together. We're not like that. You can't just give yourself a brit milah the last second. I'm a Jew. Doesn't work like that. Why? What's the connection? Mia Gibor HaKovesh et Yitzro. Did he Kovesh et Yitzro? He's not Kovesh et Yitzro. Alexander for sure was never Kovesh et Yitzro. That's what the Chachamei Negev were telling him. Next question. Who's Ashir? Who's a rich guy? Who's considered the rich guy? Hasameach bechelko.
Happy with what he has.
You see, Ashir doesn't necessarily mean you're happy, right? But no, the Gemara says happiness and richness go together. Okay? What were they telling Alexander? You think you're going to conquer countries, cities, places, you're going to make you happy, you're going to make you rich just because you have treasure houses? No. A guy comes home from work and he's sweating and he's hot. 1 cup cold of seltzer or water, how happy is he at that moment? Gan Eden, after a long day of playing ball, you have a cold cup of water. How does that feel? Amazing, right? Alexander never felt that. He never felt that. So he's not Ashir. He's not Sameach Bechelko. Why? That's why they gave him the eye when he came out of Gan Eden. His eyes, well, why did they give him specifically the eye? His eye never gets full. His eye never got full. The next question they asked him, he asked him, what should a person do that he should live? Alexander asks, the Chachamim, the Ziknei, what should a person do to have a long life? What do they tell him? Yamit atzmo, kill yourself. Then he asked them back, what should a person do that he should die? What does he answer him back? Make yourself alive. What does that mean? You want to live, so you die. You want to die, so you live? You see, guys, in our life, we're very ambitious. We grow up in society. If we don't have a house at a certain age, if we don't have a certain amount of savings at a certain age, if we don't have a certain amount of kids at a certain age, if we don't finish schooling at a certain age, we're nobody. Only when we get those things, we think we're alive. That way of thinking comes directly from the Greeks. All of that comes from the Greeks. The Ziknei Hanega told me, you want to live? Kill yourself. What does that mean, kill yourself? Not go and jump on a
bridge.
Off the bridge. No.
Toil and Torah.
You have to break all that materialistic feelings you have, all your desires. One person, an alcoholic for example, who stops himself from drinking 1 shot of alcohol, at that moment, you know what he did? He lived. But the other guy who's drinking himself to oblivion and dancing in the club, he's dying every single second. That's what they answered him. Don't think just because you live in a world where everything is allowed, freedom of speech. You know, in our generation, Rabotai, it's such a, especially with this new president. Could you believe that woman, I don't want to mention her name, who claimed that she had an affair with the president, who she worked in a certain industry that to say it would have to dip inside the mikveh. She goes right now on news, on televisions. She goes to schools to give speeches. This is the idols of Greeks. This is it. That's what a person has to do to die. This is our society that we live in. I'm afraid if Mashiach doesn't come soon, I'm afraid what kind of world my kids. If a person like that could have a free podium at a school to speak, and she's considered a hero, who's left to be a villain? Who's left? The heroes will turn into villains. That's exactly what they answered him over here. If you want to die, live. If you want to live, then die. What does that mean? You got to separate yourself from what you think gives you happiness, because that doesn't give you happiness. It gives you satisfaction. How does a person get happiness in this world? By having a healthy relationship. When you have a healthy relationship, you're happy. Halavai with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's the same thing in parenting. When a kid has a healthy relationship with the parents, he's the best child. But when the child doesn't have a healthy relationship with the parents, he feels a void inside of him, and he starts to fill that void with what? A pleasure activity. Because children don't know the difference between happiness and pleasure. Our society that we live in, it comes from the Greeks. We don't know the difference between happiness and pleasure. Whatever is good is not always pleasant, and whatever is pleasant is not always good. Is broccoli good for you? Yes. Is it pleasant?
Yes.
Not to me.
You don't eat green.
Is asparagus good for you? Yes. Is it pleasant?
Yes.
Also good for you? Listen, you're a tzaddik. What can I tell you? You don't know the difference between. You're connected to everything. Now here's the 9th question, which is a very interesting question. Where is it greater to live? As a sailor in the sea, or to live on land? So what did they answer him? That's what Alexander said.
White sailor.
It's greater to live as a sailor, he said. Why? Back in the day, there was airplanes? No. If you wanted to make business, where would you have to go on? On a ship. If you wanted to be a king, an adventurer, an explorer, where would you go? So a person would live as a sailor 9 months out of the year, go on land for another 3 months, 4 months. Chachamim told him no. It's greater to live on earth. It's good to be stable in life. Don't look to, the person always looks for a promotion, right? If I don't get that promotion, it happens a lot. The person gets his check cut. Why? He comes late to work, and he sees all of his friends that they got the same amount, or he doesn't get as many customers. And he feels hurt inside of him, So what does he do? He quits his job. Because I'm not comfortable here anymore. They don't give me what I want, and he goes to look for a new job. And like this, he jumps from one job to another. He goes from place to place, city to city. He travels country to country. Those people are never happy. They have no margoa. They have no
Stability.
They're not pleasant. There's nothing good in their life. They have nothing to come home to. But a person who plants his feet on the ground, because this is my house, this is my place. Everything starts from a small seed. The Alter Rebbe says that more as Aken says. Rebbe Michabad, the first Rebbe Michabad. When you plant a wheat seed in the ground, what happens to the seed before it sprouts? It rots. Before something gets good, first it has to get really bad. Don't go out there looking for adventure, they told him. Adventure will only get you where got Alexander. Where is that? An early death. Look for stability in life. Look for the earth. Look to put your foot on the ground. Look to create something over here, not to fly in the air. And it's the same problem with many people in our generation. Many kids are pushed to go to college, to go to universities. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but who said it's for everybody? Maybe this kid has a mind for business. Maybe this kid has a mind for Torah. You know how many good kids they get lost like that? How many potential Talmidei Chachamim? Why? The society says if you don't keep on moving up the ladder, you're nothing. We're too busy seeing how many taxes this job pays off and how much can I write off for here. We're always living in the sea. There's no stability in our life. That's why I say, this past Shabbat we had a whole diyun in the shul. Some guy comes and said, I want to start the Shacharit 7:30. Start Shacharit 7:30, finish early, and make a big su'udah. I told him like this. He said, we can't do this. Why? We have a Zman Kavua. You know what Zman Kavua is? We said 8:30. It means 8:30. It's going to stay there forever. It's not going to change. You can't change stuff. We don't live on the sea.
For comfort.
Yeah, we don't live. People who move from house to house, from place to place, they're not happy in life. You have to stay on the earth. Stability.
Natural cycle.
And then one last question and we'll end with stability. He asked him like this. Which one of you guys is the smartest? There was a couple of rabbis over there. Which one of you are smarter?
The oldest one.
The eldest, you're saying, is the smartest? So they answered him, we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all the same. And he said, how do you know? Because when we answered you, we all answered you the same. When were they basically telling him? When does chaos occur? When does chaos occur?
Machloket.
When there's a machloket. But
You need that.
you need machloket, but for example, you're a parent. If Abba says no candy, and Ima says, yes, candy, what did you do to the kid?
Gave him
You
power.
ruined him. You ruined him. He knows now that I could go to Ima when Abba says no, and vice versa. Usually Abba says yes and Ima says no. It's the same thing in life. You can't go to one rabbi, ask him in halacha, and then go to the second rabbi to hear his opinion too. Doesn't work like that. You're never going to be stable in life. You can't learn from one Rebbe. He's your Rebbe Mufhak. Then go to, he's also my Rebbe Mufhak. I have 50 Rebbe Mufhaks. I'm on 50 chats. I'm on 50 halacha chats. And I have to ask all my questions to every chat, to every rabbi, to every dayan. I belong to this congregation and to that congregation. I belong to this place and to this place. That's not how it works. This sentence over here that they asked him, this is the key to Shalom Bayit, by the way. When the father and the mother, when the husband and wife are as one, you go to your in-laws' house and they say something. What does the Rambam say? You always got to take your wife's side in front of your parents, no matter what. And vice versa. Your wife has to take your side in front of her parents all the time. Why? That's the rule. That's the rule. You always have to be
Unity.
as one. And once you could be one and equal in that sense, you could connect to the only thing in the world that's one. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Anybody want to say Kaddish?